All right. And we're live. Deadman's Tome podcast. Your host, Mr. Deadman. Co-host, Becky. How's it going, Becky?
Hey. Good. Really good.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear. I saw that a post got banned off Facebook.
Oh, gosh. Yes, it did. I got a post banned. Can you believe it?
Why are you breaking community guidelines? Why are you being offensive, Becky? What did you do this time?
I mean, it's just me.
Yeah.
Actually, it was one of those tag your friends in a Christmas post. Like somebody fell into the Christmas tree, somebody got drunk and puked in the bush, and somebody reported it.
Why? Because it's Christmas? Oh, I think I have an idea, but we'll save that name for another date.
Oh, we will.
Mm-hmm. And you know who you are, motherfucker. That's what I'm going to say. Okay, our guests tonight, Wrath, James White, Jared, Barbie,
Yay.
of Death Heads Press. How you two guys doing?
Pretty well. I'm glad to be here.
It's glad to...
I'm doing well.
Fucking cold.
Well, it's good to have you guys.
Texas. How cold is it?
Well, I've got a chest cold, so it's making my voice even deeper than normal. So forgive me if I sound like I'm growling at you.
Well, I mean, I don't think the ladies would complain about that. I mean, they...
No, that's exactly what I was going to say. There's not a chance that we would complain about that.
Yeah. Oh, man. Okay. Well, before we get carried away, let's take care of what pays the bills. Becky, can you read the ad for us, please?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Author Sadie Whitecoat is one of a kind. Insights to Evil Insides is a very relatable read for any tortured mind. You can find it on Amazon, and she is to be releasing her second book in a short time. She is dark, deep, and disturbing. To read her words is to feel her pains. So while you're waiting for blood in the brain, open her book and enjoy mingling with the depraved. It isn't going to be long until Sadie is a household name. Especially recommended for those who are mentally ill, as it assures that you are not the only one in hell. Buy her book, contact her. She's an easy friend to make. Support this very bright young author, and it will not be a mistake. Make sure you visit her author page on Facebook for a contest she has going on.
That's good. Definitely check that book out and support her, okay? Yeah. You have any more ads?
Nope.
Okay.
Not yet.
Just a quick shout out from Deadman's Tome real fast. The Patreon. If you're not a patron yet, we pretty much offer an all-you-can-read just for $2. I mean, your contribution helps us do more by paying authors more. I mean, the more we can do, the better quality we can get. And with the all-you-can-read buffet, I highly recommend the Ancient Ones, He's Risen, and of course our holiday classic, the Cthulhu Christmas Special. Mm-hmm. You also get access to a private show, which we have a private show I think scheduled for next weekend, don't we? On the 5th?
We do.
Yeah, called like Jingle Balls or something. Mm-hmm. More about that later. But it's going to be pretty raunchy, okay? And you have to be a patron to watch it. You don't want to miss it. Anyway, I think with that out of the way, let's get into... All right. In the beginning, we got some news stories to cover, which, Jared, you've been here before. You know what it is. You're free to say. You're free to chime in. Wrath, feel free to chime in as well. These things are often hilarious, sometimes a little like, what the fuck? Becky, what do we have going on?
Yes. Oh, my Lord. The first one just absolutely slays me.
Okay.
Man sues Playboy website claiming not accessible to the visually impaired. I mean, really? Okay, does he want scratch and sniff?
Yes.
Well, an interactive website would be nice for that site.
Yeah. Interactive website.
Oh
Come on now.
Lord. I mean, he's got a lawyer.
Got to be fair.
Becky,
really?
Becky, listen to yourself. It is 2018. It is 2018, and you're telling me that Playboy doesn't have Braille on demand For the blind? Are you telling me a blind man can't get off?
Nipple?
Yeah, I mean, just...
That would be interesting. That would be interesting.
Yeah. No.
I'm ashamed of you, Becky.
Yes, a blind man... Oh, hush.
Oh, what?
A blind man can get off. He can do whatever he wants to, but how are you going to put Braille on a computer on a website?
They have the technology, I'm sure.
What
in
is,
the past
is it
two
like
shows, Becky has
audio,
shown
Braille?
Oh, I'm sorry. You keep on cutting off Becky. Becky keeps on cutting off you. I think there's some truth about to be dropped here.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jared, before Becky interrupts you again. I'm sorry.
Well, it's just these past two shows. I mean, last show she was against elderly, and now she seems to have something against the blind. I mean, I'm sensing a pattern here, and I'm not sure that I like it.
Yeah. I know. I get that pattern too. I get it. Yeah. I mean,
Lord.
It's not like there was a lawyer out there that was wanting to make a quick buck and found a blind man, was like, "Hey, you want to make some money? Let's sue Playboy for me." Because I'm sure that's what happened here. Oh man.
It says that they're in the violation of the Americans with Disabilities Act.
Wow. Well, I guess you could have audio descriptions of the women.
Well, I guess that's true, but I mean that kind of. Well,
that's
I guess
not
maybe
enough.
that doesn't defeat the purpose.
It's like an audiobook.
I don't know.
I'd give it a try.
Yeah. It's a Playboy audiobook.
Exactly. A Playboy audiobook. I think that's a great idea.
And Wrath can narrate it.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
I would take that gig.
I would be paying.
That would be a nice gig.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord. Okay, well, I got another one. You ready for this one?
Sure.
This one's funny, too. YouPorn banned Starbucks after Starbucks banned porn.
I'm sorry, what?
What?
Yeah. Starbucks banned pornography from its free Wi-Fi. Okay, so you can't go to Starbucks and watch your porn.
That happens?
Well, I
don't know.
I mean,
that seems to defeat the whole purpose of porn. To watch it in a Starbucks.
Yeah, I mean, okay.
I don't know.
And so the adult website has responded to Starbucks' decision to ban pornography from its free Wi-Fi by forbidding its employees from using the brand's products.
Okay. Well, a tit for tat, huh? You won't let our clients jack off, or I'm sorry.
Tit for tat. That was pretty good there, Dusty.
Well, every now and then there's a pun. What can I say? Just every now and then. Man, I don't know if this is really how you play it though, because I mean,
I don't know how they can do that. I mean, with their employees. I mean, maybe on the premises, but I mean, how are they going to keep them from doing it on their own time? I mean, they have no right to do that.
I'd be like,
I would guess it's like the sodomy laws in different states. It's an unenforceable.
Yeah.
Right.
Who the hell's going to enforce that? Yeah, I'd be like, sorry, boss, but I'm going to have my Starbucks.
I believe Texas still has a sodomy law, and that certainly is not enforced.
They do. Oh, most definitely not. Come on. You ever been around with Texas women?
Oh, my God.
That's all I'm going to say. All right. What else do we got here?
Sex workers say incel campaign to report them to IRS won't work.
I believe this is what they call on the internet the Thot Audit. I'm sorry. What's going on here?
Says a few angry men on the internet have launched a campaign encouraging others to report sex workers to the IRS for failing to report the income they make online, claiming they'll get a cut of any back taxes collected as a reward for being whistleblowers.
So you would think that a man who calls himself an involuntary celibate would be in favor of sex workers.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's you would think that they would be advocates of prostitution rather than trying to shut them down. I don't get the motivation there.
Well, I
don't either.
I think
other
the people,
than money.
I think the people who are calling them incels are the quote thoughts. I don't think it's themselves calling them incels, but you're right. The people who are incels definitely want them around. I mean, they're everywhere on Instagram and Twitter and whatever, on Facebook, especially those sex bots. But it's just a few people that are jealous. I guess they got scorned or something. Well, I don't know. I don't know.
Well, you would think they'd be jealous of people who aren't paying for it. I don't understand why you'd be jealous. I mean,
right.
I don't care how broke you are. There's someone who will take your $5, depending on how low you're willing to bring your standards.
Yeah,
like Holly, like for Holly.
Oh yeah, like the Craigslist hooker we had on the show last time. Yeah,
you need to call Jared back. You lost Jared.
Oh, let me call Jared back. I don't know what happened to his connection. Everyone else is still on.
I don't know. He said he accidentally hung up.
Oh well, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, because he's doing.
Maybe he got upset about the involuntarily.
Yeah.
I mean, he is out on an oil rig right now, so technically he's probably involuntarily celibate right this minute.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah, that's gonna happen. Yeah.
Hello.
All right, Jared. How's it going?
Hi, you're back.
Did you get offended by the talk of thoughts and involuntary incels?
Well, actually, what happened was I was going to talk to the wife, and I hit the hang up button instead of the mute button on the headphones.
Yeah, that happens. That happened. I mean, my thought on this is like, first of all, it's not. I don't care. Like, I really don't care if someone makes a living being, let's say, quote, a cock tease or whatever. I mean, if a woman or a man makes a living off other people who just want to be generous with their money for their looks and what have you, okay, go ahead. Women exploit men, men exploit women. It goes both ways. It's a cycle. I'm just saying that some people, I guess, realize, I guess they sober up. It's kind of like eventually, maybe your first time going to a strip club is great, but then you realize, wait a second, I'm just wasting money.
I hear every third word you're saying.
Yeah, you're breaking up pretty bad there, buddy.
What about now?
You sound much better now. Keep your head still.
Yeah, I'll keep it still now. I'm just saying. It just sounds like the people who are reporting them are definitely very jealous. Are like, oh man, they get vacations and cars paid for. Oh, let's see if we can get 10% of that money. But here's the thing. You really think the government, you really think the IRS is going to give you 1% of any of that? They're not going to give you shit.
Right.
They just say that. There's a way around that. Oh, man. Anyway.
Again, it just seems bizarre that insults would be the ones reporting them, as opposed to, I mean, because why would they be jealous? I mean, I could see them reporting men for, I don't know, promiscuous men or something. Like, what was that website that got hacked? That website for cheating people, I can't remember the name.
I know which one you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about.
What is the name of that site? Madison, right? Madison. Something
yes,
Madison.
That's right. Ashley Madison.
Ashley. See, I don't know because I'm a married man. Wrath. I don't know.
Yeah.
Man.
Well, that was the thing is that I could see insults being upset about married men having more sex than them, outside of their marriage or whatever, and reporting that. But reporting prostitutes seems kind of, don't know.
Backwards.
Yeah. It seems to be against their own interests, since apparently that's the only way they can get laid. Well, hence their title. To me, it seems like an admission of defeat to even call yourself an incel. You know, I mean, that's
right.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Well, I think what's happening here in that article is that I guess people who are reported, which they flip out and call their fans incels, which is like, come on, don't. It's not them that are reporting you. It's a minority within your group. Every fan base has that 1%, maybe 10%. I don't know how big your fan base is.
It's the same person that reported my post.
Yeah, probably. Probably.
Well, you know, I had my first real kind of stalker type, I don't know, crazy person on my Facebook recently with attacking my writing. Did you see that? Was attacking my writing and
I saw that.
And
he was attacking your daughter too. He was attacking your daughter.
Yeah, my daughter's name and everything.
Oh, and we talked about it.
Yeah, he went nuts. And he's like creating new accounts and going after people under like false, sock puppet accounts. Mm-hmm. And
really?
I mean, the guy is just insane. Oh yeah,
he is. He is
insane.
We talked about him too. We roasted his ass on a. It was a private show. It was on Streamy. You can still see it. It was called a Sausage Fest. We're real classy on this show, by the way. Which, by the way,
not so much on that one.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, that guy is who I would imagine being one of those incels, like that guy.
Exactly.
I could see.
Exactly.
He's just jealous of every writer who's got more success than him.
Yeah.
And just goes after everyone.
I was absolutely shocked when I saw him attack you in a post. I was like, what the hell? I mean, because you he has no class. He has no brains, because the first thing I said was, does he not know what Wrath looks like? Wrath could kill him.
Yeah. Does he not know that Wrath used to be a pride fighter?
Clearly he has no intention of ever attending a convention, because you never know which one I'm going to pop up at. So clearly that is not, he is just taking himself out of that pool. You
want to talk some mess about my daughter again?
Right.
Why do you come outside real fast? Oh, man.
I don't know. That was just ignorant. And you lost Jared again.
Oh, well, more like Jared lost me again. Let me add him back to the call. Okay.
But yeah, he went after Matt Shaw. He was after me. I just blocked him after I saw your post about it.
I blocked him, and I blocked all of his little accounts that he keeps making. Like every time he makes one,
I need to know what those are. Yeah, we have a strong suspicion that we know who.
Oh yeah, we know who that guy is.
He really is.
Yeah, I think I know it's either initials KS or someone else, but. But that's.
Are we talking about the infamous Bob Carl here?
Oh yeah, we are.
Oh honey, we are.
Carl.
I just came back in.
Bob motherfucking Carl.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Bob motherfucking Carl.
Yeah, I would love to just like make amends with him and invite him to Killer Con, so that I could just pin slap him in front of the entire.
You know what?
Invite him to be.
Can I smack him first, please? Because I know
talks so much.
Smack him, it's over.
You know what would be great is we're doing at KillerCon. We're doing a panel, like a contest called One Punch from Wrath.
Oh man!
Basically, you have to.
Do that.
That would be awesome.
Shaw did that with you.
Because Matt Shaw has kind of inspired it. But we're going to make it a whole contest, so you have to, a panel would have to answer questions, and whoever misses the question gets hit.
Oh!
and it just keeps going until someone quits. Well, the punches are going to be in the arm. Oh, see, that would be great. See, the punches are going to be in the arm,
Oh man,
it would be great if I could get Bob Crawl up there and have him miss a question, and then I just miss his arm and hit his chin.
Oh, I know so many people that would pay really good money to see that.
I would.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I would too. In a second.
I would host it. I would be there live streaming it. You know, I have a thing. I have a thing about when people talk shit about other people, especially on Facebook or whatever, and Twitter. I'm like, hey, why don't you come on the show? I'm a neutral guy. I don't have a stake in it anywhere. So why don't you come on the show and talk to this mess? Oh, you don't want to? You can't? You know why? Because you're full of shit. That's why.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, it would be nice to just do it in person. Like I would honestly give him a free ticket just to. I would comp his registration to KillerCon, and I will put that out there right now. If he wants to come to KillerCon and confront me in person, I will comp his registration. He'll get a free pass that weekend.
Bob Carl.
Hell, I'll help buy him a plane ticket. Are you kidding?
Let's see that fight. I want to see it.
We'll start a GoFundMe account.
Yeah.
All right. Before we move on, I think we have one more news story. Real quick. Let me turn on the shot cam. I have these, I don't know, these basic bitch shots right here. What was it? Tiramisu, chocolate, and brownie flavor. I don't know what the hell these are. Flavored alcohol.
What in the hell are you drinking?
I don't know.
Drinking girl liquor?
I'm drinking girl liquor. It's what I have. Okay.
Girl liquor.
Oh.
Girl liquor. I have a stein of beer. Okay, near me. I think I'm all right.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
I'll let the chat decide which one goes first. But you have to, you know, be in agreement.
No, I'm kidding.
Oh, I will be in my stomach. All right, what's the last story?
So the last news story is 2 more women accuse Neil Degrasse, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right,
yeah, Degrasse,
of sexual misconduct.
Wow.
Well, now, see, that is pretty shocking to me. I'm a big fan of Neil Degrasse Tyson, and so that's... for me, you know, I was not one who really gave a damn about the whole Bill Cosby thing. If he's a fucking rapist, he deserves to be buried under the jail. Mm-hmm. I never looked at him like a father figure like some people did. He was on a TV show, that's it. But Neil Degrasse Tyson is someone I really respected. You know, he's a respected scientist and philosopher, and if these allegations are true, then that's much more impactful to me than, you know, Louis C.K. or fucking, you know, any of those guys.
Yeah.
You know?
Now, in the article, I think that you have, is that the one? Because I saw another one before we started from the Mary Sue, which, I mean, kind of take that with a grain of salt, really. But is this the article that has the rape allegation or just the 2 sexual misconducts?
The sexual misconduct.
Okay.
But what's really interesting about this is that one of the women said that after he'd taken the picture, he noticed my tattoo and kind of grabbed me to look at it.
Okay. And I have the photo of him.
Okay. And was really obsessed about whether I had a Pluto on this tattoo or not.
Okay.
And then he looked for Pluto and he followed the tattoo in my dress. Oh. Well, I mean, you know, if you're looking at a tattoo that somebody has, it's not like you're paying attention to much of anything else, I wouldn't think.
I mean, when she says dress, is she saying like her shoulder? Or is she saying like he moved his hand all the way into my dress and down to my ass looking for Uranus? I mean, come on here. I mean, this one, I have the picture
Pluto.
of it. It sounds...
Pluto, not Uranus.
Oh, I'm just making sure you said the right thing, because...
The tattoo was on her damn arm.
Yeah, it's on her arm.
And shoulder.
Yeah.
And shoulder. I mean, really? I just don't see this as being...
Here's the thing, too. And I say this with anyone who have these accusations. I've said it before. Sometimes things are missed in interpretation, perspective. Like, maybe he was just looking at the tattoo. Right. I don't know. But I think it's the other accusation. It's a little bit more like, what's going on here? What was that one, Becky? The one about his apartment?
Oh, I don't have that one.
Okay.
I don't think.
I think it's further on down in that article.
Where she arranged to meet and have dinner with him?
Yeah. He just invited her to his apartment for wine and to wind down, right? At night.
Right.
Kind of. Right. It sounds like he's hitting on her.
He asked her if she wanted to have a drink afterwards. Yeah, he's kind of hitting on her.
Yeah, it's kind of like on Seinfeld when George was asked, "Do you want coffee? Would it come up for coffee?" It's like, coffee isn't coffee. Coffee is some, but
code word.
Because the problem is, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong here, but it seems like a lot of times, if not all the time, we don't speak directly when it comes to, hey, do you want to fuck? It's kind of like this indirect thing. It's like, do you want to come upstairs? No, maybe.
Yeah, people kind of beat around the bush.
Yeah, people just beat around the bush.
Yeah, and that's, there was an article recently talking about how the BDSM community are the masters of consent. I personally wouldn't know anything about that, but but in the BDSM community, so I'm told, everything that they do, wrong pronoun, but everything that they do, there is a negotiation involved, and it's frank and it's open and it's clear and concise. And I think if in the vanilla world that was done, there'd be a lot less of this, because there's no ambiguity. If you say, hey, when we get to my house, are you okay if I stick my arm in your ass? And if you say yes to that,
you get an arm in the ass.
Then there's no going back. You get an arm in the ass, and you're either going to be happy about it, and if you get buyer's remorse later on, you have no real reason to complain.
No refunds.
It was negotiated. It was negotiated in advance.
Can't return.
And I think that should happen more often. I think that should be that practice should be mainstream.
I agree. But that was a horrible visual, Raph.
Oh man. Now, shit. There was one other lady that came out recently, like I said, on the Mary Sue. She's the one who's trying to say that Neil deGrasse raped her, apparently in college. But people are like, oh, we don't really believe her and all this stuff. There's something weird about this article, too. No one's really covering it. Like, you won't see it on Reddit, okay? You won't... Yeah. I don't know.
There's a reason for that, don't you think?
Yeah, there is a reason. Because, well, especially on Reddit, like, he's seen as a hero, which I understand. He's definitely inspirational. He definitely is. I can't even say this woman's name. Chia Met? I didn't even say it right. I know I did not. Says that he drugged and raped her while they were both studying astronomy at the University of Texas in Austin. She publicly accused him during a speaking event in 2010 and was met with dismissal from his fans and supporters, which is detailed in an interview with her that you can read here. That's from the Mary Sue, like I said. I mean, I don't know. I don't really know if they fact check. I really don't. They kind of just... This is the same website that went on a rant about how, like, Samus, like the video game Metroid, about how she's, like, transsexual. I don't know. They write tabloid stuff. They don't really do a whole bunch of investigation. So that's probably why it's just no one's taking it seriously and all that. It just seems like... it's just... What is this?
James, I'm laughing at the chat. I'm sorry. Yeah. James Watts said, good thing women shave now. Beating around the bush was horrid.
Oh, yeah.
I love my guys. They're funny.
I'll tell you what. Let's move on. Does anyone else have anything to say? Are you good?
We're good.
You good?
I'm good.
Okay. All right, let me take the shot. I think they voted fudge. I think someone's saying, fudge means chocolate or brownie. I'll go with brownie, whatever the shit is.
Chocolate?
Yeah. It doesn't matter. It's all going down anyway. it doesn't really matter.
Drink it.
All right. Before I do this. All right, Wrath.
Yes.
Who are you and what do you do? I mean, it's a big question. It's loaded.
What do? I write horror novels. I write extreme horror. I write erotic horror. I write BDSM horror. I write visceral, violent, hardcore stuff. That's what I do.
Yes, he does.
That's pretty good stuff.
But I will say this: for people who have the criticism of extreme horror that it's gratuitous, I would challenge someone to read my novels and tell me the violence or the sex is gratuitous. It all serves the plot.
Right.
Always.
I agree.
And that's good.
Yep.
I mean, it's good to have it to where it serves the plot. Now, of course, there's always naysayers. There's always those that are critical. Just the fact that it's even there, I'm sure someone will be like, oh, does it really, though? Because why did you need to have that? Why did you need to have this? No one would ever do that. No one would ever do this. It's like, have you met people? I mean, yeah, people who put kids in microwaves. I mean, shit.
Well, that's, and that always blows me away when people, say, oh, no one would ever do this. Yeah. So I'll tell you a story. I was writing a play way back in, I think it was 1990 or 90 or 91. And in the play, there was a priest who was a child molester. And my professor at my college, who was reading the scripts, he said, oh, well, this is unbelievable. A priest would never be a child molester.
Has he met me?
And he told me that. So obviously the big scandals hadn't hit yet, but 2 years prior, there had been a big scandal about a priest in Florida who had molested a young boy. His mother filmed it, sold films of it, and in those films, supposedly, the dog was involved as well. So my story, yeah, this is true. And it was in Time magazine. And I brought in the magazine to show my professor. But my point is that most of the time when people say, oh, this would never happen or it's unrealistic, it more shows their lack of knowledge of the world and their own lack of imagination. Because anything that a man can imagine, anything that a human being can imagine, a human being has done. I guarantee you.
Pretty much, man.
Especially when it comes to violence. Especially when it comes to violence or any kind of depravity. If one man can imagine it, another man has done it. Guarantee you.
Right.
That is true. That is true. I mean, there's really no limits. I mean, come on. I mean, just read in the news. I mean, you have people that are doing barbaric, heinous things to their own kids. You have people who, I mean, you have torture, you have beheadings. It's just, I don't know, man. It's everywhere.
Well, and I mean, you look even historically. I mean, you look at what people have done to each other.
Oh yeah.
In the name of religion, for instance. I mean, the Crusades, the Inquisition, things like that. I mean, just horrific things that were done. You look at things that are going on right now with terrorist beheadings and things of that sort. So, I mean, the horror is just keeping up with the times. We're not even inventing anything new. We're keeping up with the horrors that exist in the world today.
Yeah, that's true. Now, I'm going to segue just a little bit because I know you have a brief history in pride fighting, right? I mean, you were mixed martial arts and all that.
Yeah, so I started out in kickboxing, did some boxing, and then wound up training MMA fighters. So I did most of my fighting in the 90s. Excuse me.
Okay.
And I fought overseas quite a bit. I did a fight I fought in K1, I fought in Pride, and then, but that was when mixed martial arts and kickboxing and was not extremely profitable. When it became profitable, a lot of the fighters who came up with me in the 90s, who were like the ones who were just wrestlers or just jiu-jitsu guys, back then it was NHB, it was no holds barred. Mm-hmm. When it actually truly became mixed martial arts, a lot of those guys found that they couldn't just be a wrestler anymore, or they couldn't just be a jiu-jitsu grappler anymore, that they had to learn how to fight standing up. Yeah. And since they knew me, suddenly I became very sought after because I was a kickboxer. I knew all these guys, so they started coming to me to learn how to fight standing up and truly become mixed martial artists. And that's how I got into training mixed martial artists, because, like I said, it was just because of the transition in the sport from NHB to mixed martial arts. And a lot of guys, it was surprising to me, because a lot of guys who were considered the best fighters in the world were coming to me, and I was shocked to find that they didn't know how to throw a punch.
I see.
They were just submission artists. They had never thrown a punch or not a proper punch. Didn't know how to kick, didn't know how to throw an elbow, didn't know how to do all this stuff. And it was shocking to me, because these were guys who were legends in the sport already. So anyway, so that's how I got involved in it.
Okay. Now, I don't follow MMA like I probably should. I know there's a few listeners that do. Are there any fighters that are currently fighting now that you have trained in the past?
Well, the most famous name, and most people know this, I used to train Frank Mir. Okay. I trained him when he won his first UFC title. He and I trained together for about 4.5 years. But I also was a sparring partner for just about everybody. When I lived in Vegas, one of the things with heavyweights is heavyweights are almost never in shape. They get in shape for the fight, and then after the fight, they get fat and lazy. Well, okay. I was the exception to that, and I stayed in shape always. So that's how I got to spar with so many people, is because when these fighters would come to Vegas, they were looking for heavyweight sparring partners, and everybody was fat and out of shape. And I was the only one who was in shape, and so I wound up sparring with everyone. Yeah. So I sparred with Forrest Griffith. I sparred with what's his name? Vitor Belfort. I sparred with oh man, I'm forgetting names. I'm getting old. But anyway, I sparred with a lot of guys.
I mean, a lot of. I mean, you've done a lot. Now, I mean, I'm surprised you haven't been on the Joe Rogan podcast. I mean, is that in the works? That's in the works, right?
Well, no. Joe Rogan. So since I moved to Austin. So I've been in Austin for 9 years now. Yeah. And so that means I've been out of the game. I've been out of the game for 9 years. Like I retired 10 years ago, left Vegas 9 years ago. So I've been out of it for quite a while. So I'm irrelevant at this point as far as the MMA goes.
I don't know, but he also brings guests on that have that background, but do other things like write and everything. It depends on if it sparks his interest, kind of. I don't know. Maybe send him one of your books. He might read it.
Send him to the death.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go. That'll be a good one.
I mean, you seem to have a knack for controversy. You're not afraid to write in controversial subject matters, which we're going to get into. We're getting into it pretty heavy here. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, how long have you been writing?
So I won't go back to like high school or anything. I submitted my first short story for publication in high school when I was 17. Wow. I started my first novel when I was 24. So that was 93, 94, somewhere around there. That's when I started writing my first novel.
Okay.
So I could say that that's when I started writing. But realistically, I didn't start actively submitting my work for publication until about 2000. So that is probably the real answer, because writing, everyone writes. Everyone has like little poems or short stories or something. I mean, there's millions of people who are writing. But if you ask them, are they a writer, that's a different question, because that's a part of your identity, and that suggests a different level of commitment. Mm-hmm. And I didn't have that level of commitment until I began submitting my work and getting rejections and acceptances and editing and being. And so I would say that was in 2000.
Okay.
Before that, I was just dabbling like everybody else.
Okay. Now, I mean, is your writing like a reflection of your life and based on personal experiences?
So, yes, I don't think you can isolate yourself from your writing entirely. Bits of my life, bits of people's lives who I've observed, friends, acquaintances, everything shows up in my writing. What I always found interesting and something unique to the horror genre is that when you write horror, particularly when you write extreme horror, readers identify you with the villains. And that is unique to the horror genre. No one identifies Ian Fleming with like Goldfinger. They identify him with James Bond. Right. No one. It is unique to the horror genre that when you write monsters and villains, that in horror, that's who people assume you're like.
Yeah.
Not the hero in the story, the villain. When, as a writer, you're the villain, you're the hero, you're the victims, you're the witnesses, you're the detectives investigating the crime. A bit of you inhabits every character you write. So I always find it interesting that in the horror genre we get that rap, like, oh, you wrote this horrible villain, you must be a horrible person. Nowhere else, in no other genre, no one looks at Agatha Christie and thinks she's like killing people on her times off. No one. It is absolutely unique to the horror genre, and I've always found that bizarre.
No one goes to J.K. Rowling and says, you want to exterminate a group of people just because they're like this, Yeah.
It's bizarre.
Yeah. Okay. I haven't thought about it like that till now. Really, that's interesting. Okay, because that cliche is there. You write horror, so you must be a horrible person. It's like, oh.
Exactly. But there are, and that's what's weird, is because every action film has a villain in it, and yet if you're the writer, they associate you with the hero of the action novel or action film, a spy novel, a detective novel. You're going to be identified with the detective, not the villain. Only in horror do you get stereotyped that way.
Yeah, and how do you deal with that?
Fuck them.
I like that.
Honestly, plain and simply, I don't give a damn if someone thinks that. Because to me, if you're that stupid that you really think that Stephen King must be this sick and twisted person because he writes about killer clowns or something. If you're really that stupid.
Not just killer clowns. Let's not forget about the ending scene in it with the.
Yeah, I know. We'll get to that later. But that's funny though. But you bring that up because that's funny, because here Stephen King could write a adolescent gangbang scene, and no one thinks Stephen King's this horrible person. Why? Because he had achieved this massive level of success by the time that book was written. But no one else better dare try something like that. You know,
right?
I mean, that was.
Oh man,
that was crazy.
That happens. So, what do you say to those that say, "Oh, but the grotesque violence, it's just perpetuating it"? You know, there's people out there, especially on the internet, they're like, "Oh, all this violent media, it's perpetuating violent behavior and things like that." Or when you have female characters or male characters attacking women, it's perpetuating some horrible stereotypes, horrible imagery that people. They just go on and on about that.
So, yeah. So here's the thing. I don't believe that anyone looks at any type of media, whether it's death metal or a slasher film on TV or one of my novels, and decides, hey, I'd never thought about doing something like this before, but this has inspired me. Now I'm going to do it. That doesn't fucking happen. That doesn't happen. If anyone who gets titillated by that type of stuff already had that in them, and my book is not going to be the trigger. I have yet, and I read a lot of true crime novels. Books. I read a lot of true crime books, and I have yet to read anything. And I also read a lot of books on abnormal psychology, and I've yet to read where a book, a movie, a song was the trigger.
Right.
Never. It's never the trigger. It's always something else in their life.
Yeah.
Now,
they'll blame it though. They'll blame the media in a heartbeat. Oh yeah. Because no one wants to take responsibility for their behavior. Well in court. I'm sorry.
Yeah, because it plays well in court. It's a trick the lawyers use to derail the conversation away from their client and get it on the media or whatever else.
Yeah.
And they get enough. They rile up enough. I don't know, Christian conservatives, and they'll and maybe someone will take pity on their client for slashing up a dozen women or whatever. But it's bullshit. It's not. That's not what does. So when I was a kid, you'd watch like a kung fu movie, and we'd all come out and we'd start throwing kicks at each other and doing kung fu stuff, all that shit. But that was pretty much it. We didn't take swords to each other. One of the big films when I was a kid, one of the big karate movies was The Flying Guillotine. No one started chopping off heads after watching that.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's
you know
absurd,
what? And I asked that question as someone who grew up playing a lot of video games. When I was in the 90s, Mortal Kombat was, everyone knows how popular that game was. But I didn't catch any kids going out in the street and doing uppercuts, like fatal uppercuts. That it just didn't happen.
Ripping out people's spines.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, it's absurd. That whole kind of looking for a singular cause. No, I get it. It is human nature to look for patterns.
Yeah.
And and sometimes to create patterns where none exist.
Yeah.
And to see patterns where they just aren't there. And if, let's say in the 80s when heavy metal music was really popular, and then suddenly there seemed to be a lot of serial killers. Was it that there were a lot of serial killers, or that they were just reporting on them a lot? Well, I would say that it was the latter. But because there were simultaneous with the surge in heavy metal music's popularity and the over-reporting of serial killers, people saw some type of causality there. And
yeah, that makes sense.
Everyone came down on heavy metal music as, oh yeah, it's creating serial killers. It's
yeah,
absurd.
it's because of Slayer. That's what it is.
It's absurd. Because the reality is, that the number of serial killers pretty much has stayed constant. I used to work at the LA Weekly back in the early 90s, and I used to read the teletype machine at night. And there were, on one stretch of highway, I forget the name of it, the highway that goes from one end of California to the other, the 105, I believe. I can't remember. But on 101, one of those. At any given time, there were 6 serial killers working that one stretch of highway.
Man.
More serial killers working that one stretch of highway than anywhere in the world. Do you know how many were reported on? None.
Wow.
None.
You know
None
what?
of it made the news.
That's kind of going with what I'm thinking now too. Like, there's a lot more serial. I don't really hear about serial killers anymore in the news. You know?
No, because it's not popular right now to report on those. It was popular in the 80s and why else? Why was it popular in the 80s? Because horror movies were popular.
Yeah.
So, I mean, horror was like huge in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why it was in the news all the time. Now it's just no one really cares. So they don't report on it. And it's not like, oh, well, now heavy metal is not real popular anymore. And look, there's no more serial killers. That's not the case.
Yeah.
We don't hear about them anymore. That's all.
That's what it is.
Because everybody's talking about the school shootings or going in and shooting somebody.
Exactly.
Or
school shootings.
Now school shootings and terrorism.
Who's
right?
Yeah. Neil Degrasse Tyson grabbed someone's arm and made some bad news. Was being too flirtatious. I don't know.
Exactly.
I don't.
People are dumb.
And terrorism and immigrant caravans and all that stuff is more popular now because it's more controversial and sells newspapers. So you hear about that now.
Yeah. See, like I didn't even know.
And so what? If someone wanted to, they could draw a correlation between terrorism, the rise in terrorism and zombie movies.
They could. They could
actually. The reporting of. They could, honestly. Because
they really could.
Don't help them, Brad.
You might as well. Because eventually they go too far. Eventually they go too far. Like when, for example, when the Huffington Post tried to say that Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer is problematic, which they try to do, it's like, guys, y'all just need to stop. Like, you've gone too far. Like, what are you talking about? The point of the story was he was an outcast. That's the point of the story. I mean, what are you talking about?
I think what it is just pointing out. See, here's the thing. You can look back on less enlightened times and pick things apart.
Yeah.
When the story of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer is pretty hilarious. I mean, when you think about it, it's like, oh, he was an outcast and we hated him until we found out he was useful. And so it's kind of a shitty message. It really is. But at the time,
but he had a great talent. He's like an X-Men. He's like a mutant of the reindeers.
Yeah, he was an outcast.
I know, and they treated him like shit. And they treated him like shit until they found out.
That's what people do. That's what people do.
And so it is a crappy message. It is a crappy message.
Is it a crappy
message?
Not
a great message.
Or is it a reflection of how people are? Because that's how people are.
Yes.
No, it is. Oh, it's true. It absolutely is true. And I think now the idea, which I don't disagree with, is that we should be improving morally, and we should be striving to do better. And I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with it. I mean, I think we should entirely. I think we should be pushing to be more sensitive, to be more aware, and more accepting. That said, I think we should be pushing forward. not looking backwards, had less enlightened times going, look how shitty that was. Like we're so morally superior. Because the time that we're in right now, 40 years from now, people are going to be looking back at us, and we think we're so enlightened and so superior, and they're going to be looking back at us saying the same thing. Can you believe the music they listened to or the songs that they thought were acceptable? They were horrible people. I mean, judging the past by the standards of the present is always going to be problematic, and the only reason people do it is so that they can feel morally superior.
Of course. Things change. Society changes. The progress. Is
it's like exactly. It's like looking at people who would drive. Calling someone stupid because the best they could come up with was a Model T Ford. It's like, look, I've got a Ferrari. It's like, you have all progress, whether moral or scientific, is incremental. It builds on one.
Gotcha.
It builds on itself. So looking back at I think it's a waste of time to look back on the past and compare yourself and judge the past on the standards of the present. I think it's
That's
I
true.
think it's a waste, and I think it's only done. I think it's only done to support your ego. Honestly, to bolster your ego.
Okay, so let's talk about some of your works real fast.
Talk about the one he's coming out with.
Yeah, you have so much. Let's start with that. Let's start with the Master
Did we lose
of Pain.
Jared again?
No, he's there. He's here.
What was that?
Is Jared?
I'm here. I'm just
Jared there.
working in the background.
Okay.
Okay.
So Jared, your company, Death's Head Press, is
so
publishing
Master of Pain is coming out from Death's Head, what is Jared? Speak up. What's the name of the damn press?
Death's Head Press.
That's right.
I'm hurt. I'm wounded.
So
He's
Master
been
of
dealing
Pain,
with me. That's why I can't remember.
So Master of Pain, co-authored with Christopher Ruffke, who is a wonderful writer. It's coming out from Death's Head Press in January, and it is based on America's first. Inspired by America's first internet serial killer, and but it is
inspired
not
by internet's first internet serial killer.
Yeah. So he lured his victims through an internet chat room, actually a BDSM chat room, and
on AOL.
That's how he selected his victims.
Okay.
So so the story was inspired by that. It is about as far from a true story as possible. It's pretty outrageous. Pretty outrageous. But it's also but it also has some moments that I think are pretty sexy. I think some people will find parts in there that are erotic, so I'd classify it as an erotic horror. But it's definitely extreme. It's definitely brutal. So it fits in the extreme horror category as well.
Okay.
And Ruffke complements your style just perfectly in that book as well. Props to him.
Yeah, he's good too. I can't wait to read that. I know that it's going to be amazing.
Yes, yeah. I would put it along the lines of Succulent Prey in terms of the level of depravity in there. But it's interesting because it has some things because it takes a lot of things from the BDSM community. So there are some things that are true and go on all the time. And in the context of this book will seem to vanilla ears to be as twisted as the things that are violent and well, I mean, I guess they are violent still, but I mean, but the things that are there that their villain does. And I think it'll be interesting for me to see if my readers understand the difference between the stuff that's consensual and fine and okay, and the stuff that the villain does.
Yeah,
because that's what I did. Was I put the two together in simultaneously. So you see the stuff that happens every day, and that's normal or acceptable. At least
you mean normal? You mean normal and acceptable, like in the BDSM world, like normal?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Right.
Exactly.
All right, gotcha.
Exactly. And but at the same time as you're seeing that, you're also seeing what the killer is doing. And I'm hoping that people, when they read it, will be able to see, to contrast the two and see, okay, this isn't so bad, but this is fucked up.
Oh, I think they'll get it.
I'm sure most people are gonna. Yeah, I hope so. I think a lot of people are gonna go, it's all fucked up. But but that's just human nature. There's nothing I can do about that. But I'm hoping that some people will see, oh yeah, well, I can see how this part would be cool. This part.
Well, it starts as consensual. As consensual and morphs into something different.
It starts with a yes.
Yeah.
Like you said earlier on the show, like they say they agree to having a knuckle or an arm in the ass. And later on, it's like, I didn't agree to this. Why is your arm in my ass, bro? What's going
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see readers' take on it. I mean, whenever I write a book and it goes out there and it's published and it hits shelves and, hits Amazon and people start reading it, I am always really curious to hear the reviews. I'm really curious to hear what people think and what they got out of it. And sometimes I'm on pins and needles because a lot of my work really does have a social message, philosophical, sometimes political message, and I'm really curious to see if people get it. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. And I don't even care if they agree with it. I just wanted to see if they get it.
Yeah.
And that's always like what I waited. Yeah. Like Population Zero was mentioned earlier. That one is impossible not to get. I mean that the message of environmentalism and so on and so forth is really heavy-handed in that, deliberately so. And when I was writing that, when I first said what I told the publisher what I wanted to do, Brian Cartwright, he well, it's not going to be real preachy, is it? And so I just showed him the first couple of chapters and how I intersperse like the statistics about environmental destruction, basically, with the story and how I wove it into the story. And he said, no, this works great. People are going to love this. And I think for the most part, people did love it. I'm aware that there's a fine line between writing books that have a socio-political message and writing propaganda. And I've talked about this numerous times. And the reason why sometimes I keep my own opinion out of it. Like I lay out the facts, I lay out everything. Even in 400 Days of Oppression, as twisted as that book was, and with the emphasis on racial atrocities that have happened in the past and present, really my judgment on the whole thing, the author's judgment on the whole thing, is not present in the book. I lay out all the facts and then let the audience decide. And in Population Zero, I did the same thing. Some people could see this as like a environmentalist book or as a anti-environmentalist book. It just depends on how you view the facts, and I just leave it up to the reader, and that's I do that quite a bit. I kind of hold my own opinions close to my chest.
Now, there's some
chat
questions.
has a couple of questions.
Oh yeah, the chat
quick.
does. The chat does. I'm glad you were keeping track of that. All right, go ahead and ask him, Becky.
Okay, Raph, do you like paranormal-based horror?
Sometimes. I don't dislike it. I don't really like ghost stories. I don't find ghosts scary.
Okay.
I just don't. I give it a try every now and again, like with books and even movies, and a bunch of spooky, a bunch of spooky stuff happening and no one dying or getting hurt. It's just not scary to me. I know that it's just not scary to me. To me, there has to be an existential threat to be scary.
Makes
a
sense.
Door slams. Ooh, I don't give a damn. Like, oh, I see a face in the mirror. Ooh, scary.
That's a good point.
That stuff doesn't do anything for me. It leaves me cold. Like, when I read a book or watch a movie and all that happens is a bunch of spooky stuff, it's like, that's great.
That's a good point. And it really is.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you doing? Just slamming doors, banging pots and pans around? Am I supposed to be afraid of this?
I can do that.
Yeah.
It just does nothing for me, but it really has to be some type of existential threat in order for me to really, for it to impact me.
Like those Paranormal Activity movies. Like all that is a prankster ghost. just playing pranks.
Yeah. And I don't get it. Why? So that's the other thing is everyone says that the big question when you're writing a ghost story is why don't the people just leave the house? For me, the question is, why doesn't the ghost just fucking kill him? Why does it start all slow? A cup moves. Why if you're a ghost and your goal is to kill the person, why are you moving cups around? Just kill the fucker. Why are you slamming doors? Why are you why does it have to be this huge buildup of first I'm gonna be creepy.
I asked this question.
Kill him.
I asked this question once with some people who believe in ghosts, and they're like, don't you know, bro, the ghosts have a code of law too, a code of ethics. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Oh, for shit's
They're
sake.
ghosts. They're ghosts. If ghosts have to abide by some sort of weird universal law, then what's the fucking point?
Right.
Right. It wants to be a ghost.
Yeah, right.
I have another question.
Okay.
All right. Yeah.
Is it difficult sometimes to co-write a book?
I'll take a shot to this.
So, what's that?
I said I'll take a shot to this one.
Oh.
my last.
Is it difficult to co-write a book, Raph?
So, usually I have a lot of discussion with my co-authors, and I'll tell them what my process is. And we agree on it, and we go from there.
Makes sense.
Sometimes I have, and it's very rarely, but sometimes we have visions that are just too disparate, and it just doesn't work out.
Right.
I have had maybe 3 times where I've attempted to write something with someone, and our visions just of what the book should be were just too different, and we couldn't come to a consensus.
Okay.
So then we move on. Now, in other cases, our visions may be a little different, but it makes it exciting, because that's the whole reason to co-author a book. If I would just wanted it all to follow my vision, then I would just write it my damn self. I mean, the whole point is to bring in somebody else's vision as well. And so sometimes that's just exciting. Like when I I'm writing a book with Maurice Broaddus, and we've been writing this thing for like 8-9 years now. But I always joke about how every time I give him the book back to write his next chapter, it winds up with all these new fucking characters. And then he gives it back to me, and I kill off most of them, because I don't want all these damn characters. So I start killing them,
That's great.
And do you have like a rule, like no give you backsies? You can't bring these characters back, bro. They're dead. They're not coming back.
Hey, can I jump in here and elaborate on this question a bit?
Feel free to.
How was it? Okay, we talked about collaboration with another author. How about like with the 65 Stirrup Iron Road, when you had multiple visions going?
Now, are you asking this because you know what my answer is? So that was a fucking nightmare.
Once or twice.
So that was a fucking nightmare. So basically, you had a bunch of writers who had, I don't know, they had their own stories they wanted to tell, and I don't think there was enough respect for each other's,
right?
For what so one writer would write something and pass. One writer would write something and pass it to the next writer, and half the time it looked like the next writer didn't even read what the previous writer had written.
Oh, great!
And just was like they already knew what they wanted to write. They didn't care what the person who went before them wrote. They just wrote what they had already decided they wanted to write.
Mm.
And that was really frustrating to see that. It was. It just didn't seem like there was a lot of respect for each other's writing, and that's how I felt. I still feel that way. We were able to pull it together, and there was a moment where I wanted to back out of the project because I was really frustrated and angry, frankly.
Yeah. Well, that's a
by
shame,
what
that was
I
a great
saw
idea.
happening. Yeah.
I mean,
and I think honestly, I got talked down, like Keen and Lee, both, because I threw a little tantrum because I was like, and in my mind, I was standing up for the reader. I was thinking, these readers are going to buy a book because all these wonderful authors that they love are in it, and this book is a fuck you to the readers right now. And that's how I felt very strongly. And they talked me down, and they said, listen, you can write the ending, and, you do what you can to save it. And I was like, this is not salvageable. And they threw out some ideas to me, and I think we did find a way to salvage it. And
they wanted you to carry the team.
Just change it. What's
man,
that?
They wanted you to carry the team. They relied on you to take the ball to the end. We fucked it up, man.
No, I don't think. No, I don't think that was it. I think
you're like the J.J. Watt of that. That book. You were it.
No, I think
J. Watt.
No, I don't think it was that. I mean, I think honestly, first of all, that's how it was in the rotation anyway. I would have been the last one anyway. But there was just also the suggestions on how to salvage it were, there were things that I could do, but not something that I had done in the past. In terms of basically, the idea was to just turn it into a comedy, and I don't write comedy, and so that presented a challenge to me.
You don't write comedy,
and so
I thought
I don't write
Psychos
comedy.
was comedy. Well, actually. Well, I do have to ask you something.
Yeah,
comedy. Hold on. It's like Porno for Psychos. If I remember correctly, there was a dedication for your mom, or to your mom.
Oh yeah.
Is that serious?
So I dedicate every book that I write to my mom, and that's kind of a joke because she doesn't read them.
Yeah, I was gonna ask. Did she read that book?
No, she doesn't read any of my books.
Okay.
Yeah. So what's funny is the Book of 1,000 Sins, which is a massive collection that it's not the same Book of 1,000 Sins that was released in America. I basically took the Book of 1,000 Sins that was released in America and added 3 other short story collections to it, and published it, or it got republished in Germany. And some of the reviews said the most disturbing part of that book was the dedication to Mom. And I thought that was hilarious.
So wait, are you sure your mom hasn't read any of this?
That is a running joke.
And are you absolutely sure your mom hasn't read any of your work?
Oh yeah. No. My mom was a big horror fan when I was growing up, but her appetite for horror has lessened over the years.
Okay.
She thinks it's too violent now, and she doesn't enjoy it anymore.
You might have said this already, but when does Master of Pain come out? Has it?
I believe it's the end of January.
Right.
Oh no, go ahead, Jared.
Okay.
Yeah, we're looking at a release probably the 3rd week in January.
Okay. Now, let's talk about 400 Days of Oppression. This one caught my eye. I mean, just from the premise alone, what it sounds like. What you have a. Now, I haven't read it yet, but you have a white girl who pretty much gets taught, I guess, in some ways to what? I guess a deeper understanding of oppression, a deeper understanding of some problems. Okay.
Yeah. So basically, the premise is it's a interracial couple who they're in the BDSM community, and they've been together for a little bit of time, and the woman wants to get married.
Yeah.
And the man, who's he's a black man, and he says, I will marry you if you agree. I want you to be able to relate to me and understand me. So if you agree to go through one day for every year of the black experience in America, so all 400 years of oppression, you'll go through 400 days of it so that you can understand me. And
wow.
And the whole book, there's a fictional book called 400 Years of Oppression that he reads to her from. And throughout the book, he reads the book, and it kind of gives her an idea of what new torment he's about to invent for her. Because everything, so it starts out with him describing the journey on a slave ship to America.
Does she experience that?
Yes. Oh. So he puts her basically in a coffin, suspended from chains in a pulley that rocks the coffin back and forth.
Oh my God.
She's in a basement with humidifiers. And heaters, so it's hot and it's sweltering and it's in a little confined space and it's moving, so that she'll experience what it was like.
Lord.
Yeah.
That would be sick.
And so and so it continues like that through the whole book, through each different phase, and so again, that's a book where you might, you start out thinking that my intention in the book is one thing, and then at the end, I think it makes it a little more ambiguous what the point of the book was. And the point was not to, the man is not the hero of the story, but neither is the woman.
Yeah.
The point is just the journey, really, in the book. It's not like who's right and who's wrong, because they're both fucked up. I read horror novels, and it's like they're both fucked up.
She has
someone pointed out in that my books have no heroes, and I thought that was interesting because I never really thought of it that way. But I think they're right. There's no heroes in my book.
Honestly, though,
honestly,
a lot of times in life, if we were to get the full story of someone's life, all the dirty stuff they do behind the scenes, there might not be any real heroes. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. But
where did you? How did you come up with the idea for that? Because that's an interesting premise to me. I like it. I mean, I would have never thought of it.
I think I wanted to when I read about Black history, particularly the transatlantic slave trade, I don't think that as Americans, I don't think we have a clear idea of what it was and what it was like. I don't think we have a clear idea. It's very glossed over. I don't think we have a clear idea of what happened afterwards, what the antebellum South was like, in America, I think we think that there was slavery, then Lincoln freed the slaves, and then we had the civil rights movement, and now everything's okay. And all the time in between is glossed over, and we don't really even think about it. And I think one of the things that surprised me the most was after the 13th Amendment, when the slaves were freed, for a moment there, everybody was equal. For a moment. There were Black congressmen, Black senators. For a minute there were Black business owners and everything else. For a moment there. Then there was an election. And at that time, it was the Republicans who were the abolitionists, and Democrats were the ones who wanted the status quo to remain, the slavery to remain. And so there was an election, and Lincoln was out, and there was a Democratic Democratic president. He pulled all the troops out of the South. All the Jim Crow laws came in, and everything changed.
Oh, man.
And I think about, and no one knows that. Like, people don't, they think that, there was, the slaves were freed, and then the Jim Crow laws just popped up. No, there was a brief moment there where, before the Dred Scott decision and the 3/5 of a man and all that shit, where everybody was equal. And that was maybe like a 2-year period before the next election. And then everything got snatched away. And it wasn't until the 70s, when really things started to get equal again. So there was this whole period of time where there was no equality at all. And like, for instance, when, people also think that the North was like this gleaming, I don't know, tower of freedom or whatever. But no, when the slaves who left the South and came to the North found that there were laws that were put in place to keep them from using all the skills that they had.
Yeah.
So if you were a blacksmith in the South, and you had worked as a slave, you were a badass blacksmith. And so the Italians and the Irish and the Jewish people who were working as blacksmiths in like New York were terrified that all these slaves, these freed slaves, were going to come up and take their job. So they made laws.
Oh man, so it's like
to keep you from being a blacksmith, or keep you from being this, or so that all you could do is basically clean houses.
Oh man, so the more you get into this, the more you realize there isn't really a good guy in this. North, South. No. They were like, fuck you. No.
Exactly.
It wasn't just white people. Well, I guess you could say it was white people, but I guess you have variations. You have Irish, Italian, Jewish.
Yeah.
I mean, man.
So, and I was surprised when I was learning a lot of this. So I wanted to find a way to expose people to it, and to do it in a way that they would, basically they'd go along for the ride, and they'd read it all, because I don't think the average person is just going to pick up a book on Black history or the transatlantic slave trade and just read it for pleasure.
You got to put that in there somewhere. You got to put that in there somehow.
Exactly.
Yeah, you got to trick them.
Yeah, so that's exactly what it was. That's exactly what it was.
And I was looking at your books. They all have really good ratings. They seem to be doing really well on Amazon, of course. 400 Days of Oppression, one of your, it looks like, I don't know if your most controversial, but definitely one of them. I do this, not just with you, but I did it with a few other authors. I look at 1-star reviews, because sometimes I find them to be hilarious. That's where trolls usually go.
Yeah.
And sometimes a 1-star review actually gets me to buy a book. And the 1-star review for 400 Days, you probably read this already. Someone claiming to be Latina. I'm Latina. I'm Latina. It's just whining about suffering. First off, it doesn't matter. Latina. It's like, what? God. It's like, come on now. It's just saying it's just a bunch of whining. It's like, well, I mean, what are you to say? Because I know you say you're Latina. I guess you're trying to say you're a person of color. Okay. But let's be honest. It's not the same. I mean, it's not the same experience.
And also, I think so when I said that the man is not the hero in the story, he's not. He's basically taking out the oppression that he experienced on this poor woman who loves him. So the book is not saying he's right. And if you get to the end, you realize that. And it was clear from her review that she hadn't read the entire book.
Oh, she probably didn't read
and I meant it to be offensive. And this is what I think people don't get. I meant it to be offensive to everyone. And it is. If you're black and you read it, especially when you get to the end, you're going to be offended by it. If you're white and you read it, you're going to be offended by it probably until you get to the end.
Does she leave him? Does she leave him for his brother or something? I mean, like, I didn't get to the end.
Oh, I'm not going to give you the ending away. But there's, it clears up a lot of it. But my point is that, it's not, I'm not making a judgment on any of them in the book. That's for the reader to make. I'm just taking them through the journey. And that's what the purpose of the book was. It was more about the reader going through this journey so that they understand.
Okay.
Just like the character had to go through the journey. I take the reader through that same journey so they understand. Okay. And that's it. What they do with that knowledge and my opinion of it and all of that is irrelevant.
Okay, that makes sense. Let's see. I'm going to see if the chat has any more questions for you, too. Let's see. I mean, I still have plenty to talk about. I mean, we have so much content, Out of all the books...
I didn't see any more questions. Sorry.
Out of all the books you released, all the stories you released, I mean, what's... is 400 Days the most controversial?
Probably, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say it probably is.
What about SKINZZ? That looks interesting. SKINZZ.
SKINZZ.
Yeah.
So SKINZZ is probably one of my more emotional books. And I think, so I went through a period, a period where I was writing really like emotionally jarring books, and SKINZZ, The Reaper, and Everyone Dies Famous in a Small Town. They all came out around that time. And SKINZZ is probably one of my more autobiographical novels.
Okay.
It takes place in the 80s. It's a group of punk rockers, and it actually centers around two best friends. And it's at a time when skinheads were, and punks were fighting all over the place, and it was just a really violent time. Well, I was part of that whole thing. I was working on the South Street in Philadelphia, which is, at that time, was like punk rock central. And I worked in a little clothing store called Unique Clothing. And my boss was an old Jewish guy. Well, it's funny because I say old, but he was younger than I am now. But anyway, whenever a group of skinheads would walk on the South Street, I would get a call. Hey, there's skinheads on South Street. And I would go to my boss and I'd say, hey, I need to take a break. And he'd look at me and he'd say, and because he knew what I was doing, and he'd say, sure, go ahead, And I would go out, and other friends who worked in other stores would come out, and we'd find these guys and we'd beat the shit out of them.
Oh shit.
And then I'd go back to work with my knuckles bloody or whatever else. And my boss would just kind of smile.
Man, that's living. A street fight in between work. Look at that.
Yeah. I mean, and that's pretty much like, that was the late 80s for me. It was basically fighting.
You do that now. You do that now, someone would bring a gun or something, Oh, shit.
Oh, no. It was getting there. So I got jumped. I got jumped many times. And it was, so I remember I got jumped by like 5 skinheads one time, and I won. And that's not supposed to hapen.
Is that when you were going to be a kickboxer? You're like, I'm going to become a kickboxer now. Fuck yeah.
No. What I did is I ran. I went to college. I left and I went to college.
Man,
but
you're like
because I realized that the stakes were raising on me. That if I could beat 5 skinheads, then now they were going to send 10. And they were, now they were going to bring guns and knives and other things. I knew that there was an escalation of force, and that I was in the middle of it now, and that I was going to die. Basically, it was. They knew my name, they knew where I worked, and they were afraid of me, but that just meant they would just bring more of them to get me. So. I had a price on my head, so I bowed out. I went to college. But anyway, so the book is pretty much about all of that, exaggerated, and it's funny because a friend of mine who knew me back then read the book, and my wife, who has heard stories about what my life was like in the late 80s and all the fighting skinheads and all that stuff, read the book, and they both asked the same question. They said, where does reality end and fiction begin in the book? And I said, when people die. That's the part that's fiction. When people die. And also the time frames are different. Like in a book, you can't have like, well, there was this big fight, then a year went by, and then there was another fight. No, that's boring, So in the book, everything happens like in a week. Like there's like all these fights that really took place over the course of like a year or 2 years happened in like a week in the book.
I see. Okay, now we have some questions from the chat. Let's start with the easy and go to the big one from Chris Miller. Do you shave your head? I mean,
yeah, I am just follically challenged. No, I do shave my head. Yeah. So I actually started losing my hair when I was 19, and right around the time when I was fighting skinheads, coincidentally.
Look at that. Stress.
And I know. And my girlfriend at the time was an amazing artist, and her big thing was that she was really good at anatomy. So I asked her to draw a picture of me without hair. And at the time, I had like this kind of jock hawk thing, like, you know, mohawk type looking thing. And I asked her to draw a picture of me and what I would look like without hair. And so she drew a picture. I looked at it. And I was like, shave this shit off. and I haven't had hair since.
Oh, man. Sometimes it's better without, man. Okay. How do you feel about trigger warnings? Do you put trigger warnings on your books?
No, I don't put trigger warnings in my books. I have the assumption that only adults are going to read it.
I mean, it's hard. It's hard, right?
Yeah. So, no, I don't put trigger warnings on my books. So, here's the thing. If a book, so if you're triggered by rape, let's say, and there's a book like Succulent Prey where there's going to be sexual violence in the book, then you're going to avoid it because it says it right on the dust jacket. So writing, I don't know, some type of trigger warning other than that is, to me, just redundant and silly.
Yeah, I get you on that. Let's see. The other one is, let's see. Oh. What is your take on the Birmingham mall shootings and marches?
The Birmingham mall shootings. There have been so many damn shootings that I cannot even tell you.
Yeah, I'm not even sure which one is.
It's not ringing a bell for me.
No, I don't.
Birmingham Mall. He says Jesse James will be here this weekend. Must be in this area. In Florida. In Florida. No, wait.
The shootings in Florida?
No.
Never mind.
I'm looking at the chat for clarification, and that's not. I don't think that's clarified much. Let me see. Is it Florida?
I think so.
I don't know where that's at. I don't even know what they're talking about. Like, there's so many shootings. Which one? Which one today?
I think it's Birmingham, Alabama. Is went down at a mall.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah. That was the one on Black Friday, wasn't it?
I'm not sure.
That the one?
I think it was some teenagers.
Yeah, we talked about that on Black Friday, on the Black Friday show. It was teenagers. Two teenagers shooting at each other because of PS4. I don't know. I'm just making shit up about that. But they were shooting at each other. And a little girl got hit in the crossfire.
Yeah, exactly. That's the one.
Man. But yeah, I like your response, Wrath. It's like, which one? There's so many shootings.
Hold on. Guess what?
What?
President George Bush has died.
What?
Yeah. Just came across
the
news.
old Bush?
Senior, right?
HW?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what's going to happen? I mean,
it was 94.
Well,
had a good run.
Yep.
Wow.
So.
Yeah. Sorry.
And anyway.
Well, so Wrath, we have so much we could talk about and so little time on this show. But what the question I'd like to end with is, what is your favorite horror movie and why?
Well, where'd you go?
Is he still here? Let me check.
That was a cliffhanger.
Oh,
yeah.
wait. It looks like he hung up.
Jesse.
Tune in next week for
No,
the
I'm still here.
exciting conclusion.
Can you hear me?
Jesse. Yeah. Well,
Okay.
say something else.
No, I know you can hear me. I know you can hear me.
I can hear you now.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
All right, let me see if I can
Do we
call him
still
back.
have Wrath?
No, we don't.
Yes, I got you back.
Wrath.
Yay!
All right.
Wrath. What's going on?
All right. So, so I'm an idiot. The Birmingham shooting, that's the one where the veteran, the black veteran, was there with a gun, and I guess he was attempted to stop the shooter. Police came in and shot him.
Oh, fuck.
Oh,
Is that correct?
I haven't even heard of that one.
Oh,
yeah.
shit.
It hit right after the other black security guard who had stopped the shooter in a bar was shot by police.
Fuck. I mean, come on.
So I'm guessing the question revolves around the whole good guy with a gun thing and how it plays out differently if you're black. And
yeah, I could see
I've
that.
been saying that for a long time, that whole thing about open carry is great, but not when you live in a culture where police view you as the default criminal. You know?
Like,
and
there has to be something in their training, right?
In a tense situation, they just look for the black face and fire at it. So
is that in their training?
So
I want to talk to a cop about that. Is that in their training? Like, are you trained to, like, if you just see a black person, you shoot them? Like, what the fuck, dude?
I'm sorry, you're breaking up.
Yeah, you're cutting in and out, Jesse. Really bad.
I mean, on the show, I'm not. They can hear me. Okay. Let's say
is just any good though. We can't talk to you.
Hey,
Right.
I don't know. It's like the Skype call, I guess. I don't know. But in the training and the way the cops are trained, I mean, are they trained just to shoot a black guy? I mean, what the fuck?
So,
I wouldn't think they were trained to do that.
There have been things that have come out where police chiefs have been arrested or accused of basically promoting prejudice. Like, hey, you know, if you can't find the victim, just grab a black guy off the street. And that's
Are you serious?
Oh yeah, and that's been going on forever. I mean, honestly, it's been going on forever. It's just now that it's being reported on. You know, that that's all that the kind of default criminal has been around forever. I mean, not forever. I won't say that.
You know what, though? That makes sense.
Throughout the history, if you can't find the villain, oh yeah, just grab the black guy. I mean, it's funny because it's so prevalent that it has been a joke in black culture for years. Like, it's been a joke, you know. And now that it's getting reported on and we're actually seeing evidence of it because it's getting caught on film, now it's mainstream culture is kind of outraged by it. And I think it's awakened outrage. I think black people had gotten used to it. And it's reawakened outrage in us that we had it was just the way it was, you know? I mean, and now that mainstream America is suddenly outraged by it because they're seeing it on film. Now we're like, yeah, we should be pissed off about this. But, as sad as it is to say, I think that the whole idea of, what did the suspect look like? Well, he was black, between 6'10" and 5'3", and between 250 pounds and 150 pounds, with either long hair or bald. Like, I think those type of descriptions have been like a joke. You know,
it's like
there's been a joke in the black. Exactly. I mean, that's been a joke in the black community forever. You know, and now, like, the whole like racial profiling thing. Now that that's hit the mainstream media and people are like outraged by it, suddenly it's like, you weren't outraged 40 years ago. This has been happening. This has been happening all the time. The Black Panthers were talking about this shit in the 60s, you know?
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden that you're seeing it on camera, now it's real.
Yeah.
You know? It's like, I don't know.
Okay. Now, what is your favorite horror movie?
Question.
Now, what is your favorite horror movie and why?
So it varies. So I think so. The Thing is probably my favorite horror movie. The Thing was the first movie, not the first movie, but it was probably the last movie, I would say. No, I won't even say the last. But it was one of the most disturbing movies that I'd watched. The second most disturbing movie was Martyrs. That's the most recent one that's actually gotten under my skin. And I'll get into that one in a minute. But
okay.
The Thing worked on so many different levels for me, because one of my fears that I don't like having fears. And so I always actively, when I discover a new fear, I work to get rid of it. And one of my fears was being surrounded. Like everyone against me, you know, like that was a fear of mine. I could not watch Night of the Living Dead because of that. I couldn't watch I did watch Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and that's actually what freaked me the fuck out and why I couldn't watch anything else for a long time, is because like this was like at the ending where it's like you're the last human on Earth, everyone else is the enemy. Fucked me up.
That is freaky, isn't it? Yeah, I can see why.
I know. And so the idea of being surrounded by enemies of any kind, whether monsters, zombies, and then the Thing where you don't even know who's the enemy and who's not.
Yeah.
Really, I mean, it really triggered all kinds of things for me.
Oh, like
and,
that
I remember
scene. Go ahead.
What was that?
I was going to say that scene when they're testing the blood.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, absolutely. And then that's the other thing, is the special effects were so well done.
Oh, fucking A, dude. Yeah.
It was such a creepy and disturbing, and even like the moments where they injected a little humor. I mean, I think it was just perfectly executed film. And then, like I said, the next one was probably Martyrs. Those are my top 1 and 2. And Martyrs, for me, it was not, the beginning where you don't know if the girl is insane or if there's really something coming after her and all of that. And then when you find out, like, that little, when the film kind of takes that next kind of twist, where you find out that there really is something going on and all. I just thought that the twists worked. I thought it was really well done. And I know some people think that it was just kind of, it felt slapped together, like there was no plan to it, and they were just kind of slapping things together. Nate's out there and I'm talking about you. I just thought it was brilliantly executed. And then the final scene as well was just, it's something that when you watch it, you just don't get over it. I mean, it sticks with you. And there have been so many forgettable horror films over the last 10, 20 years that when you see something that sticks with you, I mean, it's extremely rare and I think valuable. And I just don't see a lot of films like that anymore. Definitely not horror films. I mean, when the very first Saw, the reason why that got so much press is because, that final scene in that movie where you find out that the guy who'd been laying on the ground, and I'm assuming everybody's seen it, so I'm not giving out any spoilers, but the guy who was
I've never seen that movie.
But
when you find out that he was actually the Jigsaw.
That was Jigsaw? No way.
Thank you.
But that kind of stuff where it just like leaves you like, wow, it just blows you away. You just don't see a lot of that. Like, films have gotten really predictable. And even now, when movies try to be clever, it's or artsy. It's just, I don't know. It's too contrived, and I just haven't been impressed with the film in a long time.
What about the Babadook? You like the Babadook, or is it? Yeah.
It was, it was okay. My wife was completely freaked out by it. I watched it with my kids recently, and they were like, "Oh, this isn't scary,"
Yeah.
I mean, again, I don't know. It's creepy shit happening.
Yeah, it's creepy stuff.
It's that kind of thing.
It's like, why would you be afraid of a pop-up monster? It's what it is, right? It's like just a pop-up monster from a book. Yeah. It's like, just punch that thing in the face. Yeah. Especially you. Just punch in the face. Just punch in the face. Be like, motherfucker,
well, there you go.
Be like, motherfucker, I used to beat up skinheads in the street.
It was, but it freaked my wife out. But like I said, my kids thought it was silly, and I'm talking like even my youngest, who is my stepdaughter, who's 10. She didn't think it was scary. So,
yeah. Well, I mean, it's not really scary.
So there you go.
It's just interesting. It's has its problems, but I kind of like the mom in the movie. Kind of like her problem with it kind of seemed like the son was like a cock block. Keep on coming in whenever she's trying to like get her me time on and all that stuff. But anyway.
Yeah. I mean, there was. So I talking about how annoying the kid was recently on a Facebook post.
Oh.
And some parents who have autistic kids were saying that they took it as this being about the parent of an autistic child, and that the Babadook was something that was in his mind. And from that perspective, I mean, it blew me away, because to me, I was just, this is like the most fucking annoying kid ever put on film.
Yeah.
And they were like, no, this is my life. Like I have an autistic child, and this is what I go through. And it really,
I don't have an autistic child,
and really
but
think about that.
But I work with a lot of families. I can't say how due to classified things and all, but like they're not really doing that. I mean the stuff he was doing in the movie is I wouldn't really describe as autistic. I mean, like
well, I mean, they're not, they're not a monolith. I mean, they're all different. So just like people, but just like people. I mean, just like everybody. That sounded horrible.
That's what I'm going to tell my son. Thank you. After hearing this, if he says there's a monster in my room, oh son, you're just autistic. Let's take you get diagnosed. I mean, what the fuck? Come on.
Your wife is going to smack the hell out of you.
Probably. I'll smack myself for that joke. Wait, wrong. There you go.
But, no, it's funny. So my daughters used to have bunk beds, and my oldest daughter slept on the bottom bunk. My youngest slept on the top. One time she was, scared of the dark or something coming out of the closet. And I told her, I said, if a monster comes out of the closet, they're going to eat your older sister first, and they'll be full.
Yeah.
and my oldest sister is like, Dad. I'm like, it's true. They'll eat you first. They'll be full. They'll never mess with her.
It's true. And
they'll sleep tight. You'll be fine.
It's true. And if you run to the parents' room, if they catch,
smart though, really.
Yeah, and it's even better if you go, hey man, if you run out of the room, if you try to run out, the monster's gonna get you. So stay in the room.
Stay in bed.
Stay in bed.
Stay in bed and be quiet. Go to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
That's really smart. I like that. That's good.
Well, Mr.
What
Rath.
is going to work on my brother?
Well, you gotta tase him. You gotta shock him.
Yeah.
Wait,
What?
hold on. Let me understand this real fast. Is your brother running into your bed or something? What?
No.
Okay, hold on. I just have to make sure, because... Okay.
I mean, scare him to where he stays in his room.
Okay. All right. Now I follow you. Just making sure.
He's over there giggling.
Oh, man. All right. Wrath James White. Jared Barbie. It's great having you guys on the show. Jared's still here, right?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Still lurking.
About to say. Like, man, Skype messed up a few times.
Hey, I've been a fan the whole show, man.
Yeah,
yeah. And you chimed in here and there, but I think Wrath had it. You know, it was hard to get a words in edgewise on this. Everyone wanted to say something.
But that's a good thing.
Absolutely.
Wrath,
thank you so much.
Wrath, you are welcome back anytime.
Thanks for having me.
This show is very relaxed, very casual. If you want to talk about any other one of your books, feel free to. We can spend hours on it. Not afraid about
come back anytime.
I'm not afraid to touch pretty much any subject matter. You know, it's just let's talk about it. Let's talk
He's
about
not.
it.
I'm telling you.
It might get me in trouble one day. Let's talk about it. Anyway, ladies, gentlemen, press that like button, subscribe, share to someone, please, and let them know about it. Y'all take it easy.
And buy Wrath's books.
Right.
Oh, yeah, definitely do that.
Please do. Please do.
Yeah, all of them.